Okay, today I am going to do a riff on rugby. 2 questions. It's a rough day. It's lunchtime. Yeah, rough day. It's lunchtime, 6th of December 2025. Today I'm going to do a riff on rugby. I've never done anything about rugby before. From time to time I've made videos about sports like Gaelic football, hurling, horse racing. I've never done anything about rugby, but 2 questions I've always had about rugby. One was prompted this week by Eben Etzebeth, I think his name is, the South African guy. He was sent off there playing against Wales for gouging. So you have this spectacle, and I saw the photograph in the newspaper. You have the spectacle of a very, very large, physically dominant male, very strong physical specimen of a man sticking his fingers into the eyes of an opponent. Sometimes the opponent is smaller, sometimes the opponent might be the same size, sometimes the opponent might be lying on the ground. But regardless, this particular phenomenon of sticking your fingers into the eyes of the opponent, commonly known as gouging, it seems to be unique to rugby. It seems to be unique to that game because you don't see it in Gaelic football or hurling or American football, basketball. In fact, I don't even know whether you see it in boxing or not. But other soccer, you don't see it in soccer. So this gouging, this idea of sticking your fingers into the eyes of an opponent seems to be unique to rugby. And yet, rugby in Ireland certainly, and probably in the UK, is a game that's predominantly played by purported gentlemen, middle-class persons. But leaving aside the class warfare and leaving aside any observations, because it may be different in the UK, in the valleys in Wales and so on, for example. But in Ireland, it tends to be generally seen as a sort of a middle-class game. That may have changed over the years. But by and large, you have colleges like Wesley and Belvedere and Blackrock College and Clongowes and Roscrea and places like that. And they're not known as hurling or football strongholds. They're known as rugby strongholds. They pay the boarding fees and so on. But I've always been fascinated by this particularly low act of gouging, or actually sticking your fingers into the eyes of an opponent. And I was just wondering, I'd be interested to see the comments down below on my YouTube channel or Facebook or wherever. I'd be interested to see comments about this and why it seems to be unique to rugby. You don't see it in hurling. You see other things in hurling. You see other things in Gaelic football. You see fellas hitting open digs. You see lads hitting other lads with sly digs, with the butt end of a hurl, with the other end of the hurl, or whatever. But the violence in the GAA seems to be a little bit more open and, dare I say, a little bit more manly, because there's nothing more unmanly in my view than sticking your fingers into the eyes of an opponent when he's at the bottom of a ruck or the bottom of a scrum or prone, lying prone on the ground. That's something that has crossed my mind, and why one of the 2 questions I have in relation to rugby. Why does it seem to be a thing in rugby, in the culture of rugby? How did it develop? How did it start? Why is it tolerated to a great extent? Why do grown men, big physical men, stoop to such low acts when they could, with a bit of, well, with some balls, quite frankly, be well able to take care of themselves in an open, plain, honest way. The way that Mick Lyons years ago might have hit somebody a punch and headed for the Hogan stand, knowing that he was going to take his medicine, but that's, at least he did it openly and without secrecy and without being sly. But that's the one question I have in relation to the rugby. The other question is to do with the lads that play in a particular position I don't know whether they're props or hookers or front row or what way they are. But you know the lads with the cauliflower ears? They've got these ears and they're mangled, absolutely mangled. They're deformed. And 5, 10, 15, 20 years later, you might see them at dinner dances or going to gala awards or whatever. And they're all dressed up nice with the penguin suits and the dicky bows and the whole lot, the cummerbunds. And yet they've got these deformed ears like cauliflowers. And it appears to be that if you play in a particular position, that this is acceptable. This has always struck me as remarkable. Because if you think about it as an employer, if as an employer you were going to give somebody a job and you said to them, look, I'm giving you this job, it involves rucking or scrummaging or whatever, and it's an occupational hazard, uncertainty that you're going to end up with ears that look like cauliflowers at the end of your career. In other words, you're actually going to suffer a physical deformity. Would you still take the job? I doubt it, to be honest about it. I doubt it. And yet there's lads playing rugby who are perfectly happy, apparently, to do that. I'm wondering about that. I'm wondering about the extent to which an employer can ask an employee to make a sacrifice. That's one thing. But if the sacrifice involves having a physical deformity for the rest of your life, most sane people would say thanks, but no thanks. I think I'll do something else. So, there are the two questions I have in relation to rugby and the culture of rugby and the people involved in rugby and why these things happen and are tolerated. Now, I know the gouging, the guy gets sent off and so on, but you don't see soccer players or Gaelic players, hurlers or footballers getting sent off for gouging. And it seems to be unique. It seems to be unique, this predilection to stick your fingers in the eyes of an opponent, even though, like your man Etzebeth, the South African that was sent off last week, he was probably a foot taller than his opponent. He nearly had to stoop to do it. But I think it's very strange, in my view. I'd be interested, though, to see your comments down below on my YouTube channel, to see what you think about these two observations that I've made. And I can't figure it out. I played a lot of football down through the years, played handball, and a small bit of hurling, like the horse racing. And, I watched the rugby and so on. But there are two questions that cross my mind, and I've never been able to get a clear answer on. So I'd be interested to see what your views are down below. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. And I'm trying to reach 50,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I'd ask you to subscribe to my channel. All the content I make is free. It's just me and the camera. Today is the 5th of December 2025. And tomorrow, the 6th of December 1986, that's my 39th anniversary of being a self-employed person. In other words, myself and my brother opened a shop at Hart's Corner, Glasnevin, Dublin 9, on the 6th of December 1986. And I'm still self-employed. He's not. He has a handier number. He's involved in the legal system as well, but we won't go any further than that. But anyway, hit the thumbs up button, subscribe to my channel. Thanks a lot.